Afternoon, guys. I've got some very special saws to show you today, and any of you eagle-eyed collectors or avid chainsaw enthusiasts are going to know straight away that the time frame is from the 1950s to the 1960s, so pretty early. So one of my saws out today is incredibly, probably just had her 70th birthday, can you believe? And so I brought out a number because I'm going to show one saw in particular which was a groundbreaking saw for Stihl, and particularly groundbreaking in regards to the model that it transitioned to, which is, you know, a worldwide renowned favourite for many collectors. So what have we got then? How should we categorise these? Alright, so in CC then, capacity wise, they range from, it'd be interesting to know how many of you know these as well, they range in size from 77 cc's up to 125 cc's, and year wise, I guess the Jobu, the Tiger or the D94 just creeps in on the threshold of 1960, so they range from 1951 to 1960, and predominantly all the earlier ones here are all either gear drive or belt drive. Fantastic engineering. And then there is this crossover in transition as the 60s saws approached, and suddenly the gearboxes were being dropped and they had direct drive chainsaws. They were able to get enough power out of the engines. So right then, in date order, actually a few trivia questions as well. I'd love to know, let's pose a couple of trivia questions. Let me know how many of you know the answers to these, because they're really interesting. So if somebody said to you February the 2nd, 1839, that's a real significant date, but the information might be hard to find, but it's completely relevant. So that's the first trivia question. Second trivia question might be then, who made the first direct drive chainsaw? Let's say combustion engine. Yeah, let's say combustion engine. Right, and we'll do a third trivia question in a minute. So in the back is the spectacular Homelight. That's one of the really early Homelight 26 LCSs, incredibly rare, 1951. That actually uses a belt drive and a pulley system here. So a belt drive through its gearbox. Very similar, in fact, shape, you'll notice on the David Bradley. So 1951, 109 cc's. What have we got then? Okay, the McCulloch 47. Again, gearbox, unusual saw as well. So that's 77 cc's, so 2-inch piston, 1.5-inch stroke. Very similar, in fact, to the, I think that's almost identical to the Homelight C51. And strangely, it shares the same piston throw as the David Bradley. That's a 5138, I think, pretty sure. And although that's a Power Products, or aka a Craftsman Power Products engine, used by a number of people. Again, belt drive. So I digress. Where were we then? So 1951, McCulloch 47 from 53. Nobody mentioned in the comments on the last video this saw on the middle table. That's the Stihl BLK. Almost sounds like a sandwich, doesn't it? Like a BLT, but we'll come back to the significance of that. That's really interesting. 54, that's the BLK. And then we have 51, 53, 54. Who's next? Okay, it's the David Bradley's 57. The original. I couldn't pick out my Dan-Arm gear drive, so I've got a slightly later 8F, but again, launched in 57, 98 cc's. Actually, same as the same as the BLK 54, nominal 98 cc's, but make it completely differently. Did I already ask, out of all these engines, what's got the biggest piston? That's a really interesting question as well. Okay, so 57, and then the spectacular Contra, 1959, 106 cc's, thumper of an engine. And then in the front, 1960, just creeps in, 93 cc's, that's the Jobu. And so the significance of this Saul Special. West German, real rare creature. So this is the Stihl BLK 57, and so the BLK, what does that actually stand for? Which is, again, really interesting. So the model which predates this saw, which I have just a few parts for, but nowhere near a complete engine, is the BL, and the designations were simple back then. So the B was for benzene, petrol, and the L was for leicht, or lightweight. So lightweight petrol Kettensäge, lightweight petrol chainsaw. And they, although I don't have one to weigh, they are listed as weighing 16 kilograms, so presumably around the 35-36 pound mark. And then, so that was 1950, 1951. A few years later, you have the BLK, and so again, benzene, leicht, and Klein. So Klein being small, so small, lightweight petrol chainsaw, Kettensäge. And this girl is 98 cc's, and this one came in, so say this one's reported, even on the Stihl historical sites, they report this as weighing 11 kilos, but the two I've had, I have one, which is now just this one, they both weigh 13.5 kilos, which is really strange. So I don't know whether or not this is an earlier one, it weighs slightly more for whatever reason, or whether or not that's just some misinformation, or just a mistake in the information. So she definitely weighs 13.4 kilos or 30.43 kilos or around that mark, and were adopted by the German army for really good reason as well. So has a steel braided cable for the pull start cable, and adopted by the military. Slide carburettor, so you couldn't obviously turn this on its side to cut. You have this bracket, you can rotate the power head and then do cross cuts, so you can cut trees down. But in the event of this breaking, these girls also had a rear pulley at the back, so you could actually put a cord round and still start the engine if this method broke. So redundancy for starting, I mean, that's unheard of. And then the follow on from this was the BLK 58, which was 105 or 106 cc's. And the significance being on the crossover, when they transitioned from the BLK 57 in 58, Stihl introduced this girl, which is the Contra. So the Contra launched in 59, and this is Stihl's first direct drive chainsaw. Can you believe? So the Contra had a number of really interesting features. Obviously, one, the carburetor was different. This could be turned on its side, and you could, without having to rotate the head, and a load of other features. We'll get into that. Actually, we'll do a separate video for the Contra because they're special girls. Thumper, 58mm piston, 40mm stroke, and a thing of absolute beauty, and such a collectible saw to have now. So and the jobber is, I thought I'd bring the jobber out because some people haven't seen these. This is what is called a saddle chain. So the drive link, instead of sitting on the inside of the guide bar, actually straddles the outside of the guide bar. And some early BLKs from Stihl, they were supplied with a straddle chain arrangement and guide bar. And so it wouldn't be complete then. Not only is this girl 54, not only is she approaching 68 years old, let me show you how this creature runs. Fuel tap, yes. Right there. Momentary kill switch. So can you believe after 68 years this girl will still fire up single pull after 68 years. Gear drive, gearbox, beautiful engineering. The caps have these little sprung loaded balls on them. I have to clip that clip back on. Like a couple of the Japanese saws, it has a little mesh screen which sits inside to filter the oil going into the tank. Momentary kill switch, clamp to rotate the head, and redundancy for starting with a separate pulley on the back, which you need to be careful when you're doing the throttle not to catch your knuckles on. So there she is. That's the BLK 57 from Stihl. So it's a real change, a real era change for chainsaws in the 50s, because Stihl was suddenly then moving away from indirect drive to this new breed, the Contra, and then interestingly then from the Contra they classed the Stihl 07 a couple of years later as her baby sister. Again, a spectacular saw. Okay guys, let's show this girl running once more. It's quite astounding, isn't it, after this many years that these girls can start with a single pull. Oh my goodness, hand compression. So there you go. That's what BLK stands for. Benzene like Klein. Small, lightweight petrol Kettensäge chainsaw. And so a couple of these I haven't cleaned up too much, just because there's only one opportunity to keep them original, and sometimes it's just nice to see them exactly as they are after this period of time, with all original paint, without touching any of the screws, and just such an amazing piece of history, even with her serial number badge on the back. So the ones they marketed for home use were painted in this red type of enamel paint, and the military ones you sometimes see, although very rarely, they come up in the army green colour. Again, they're both beautiful saws to look at. I don't know if I mentioned as well, it's so interesting how they make the capacities, and so quickly on piston sizes then, the differences back in the day. Out of all of these saws, the largest piston, in case some of you may be thinking it's the Contra, it's 58mm. Obviously the solos are big, 54mm, 58mm, but strangely the LCS back in 51 has a 60mm piston and only a 30, is it a 37 stroke or 39? only a 37mm stroke, hence 109 cc's, but a massive piston. I don't know if there's anything, I don't think there's anything other than a Contra S, which is bigger, 66. Unless you go earlier, then obviously there's some bigger pistons then. And yeah, so the two same displacement ones here, the dam arms are running a 50mm piston with a 50mm stroke, and the BLK runs in fact the same as the Rex. That's a 54mm piston but a 46mm stroke. So massive piston, and just after all this time still running absolutely beautifully. There she is, guys. So some of you may not have seen some of these girls. These are some special creatures from the 50s, and of course if you look back at some of the other engines available from the 50s from Sears Roebuck, again they used a lot of Power Products engines, and they were supplied through Craftsman as well, branded as Craftsman, and some of them are Culloch, and you could bring out some of the early Clinton, like the R series with the gearbox as well. All amazing pieces of engineering. Let's start it once more. Oh! Oh! Is she going to start again? I'm very fortunate. The only thing I needed to get ready for this girl, other than giving the fueling system a clean, and was I'm an avid collector of old spark plugs as well, and I had a mint, nearly new vintage plug for this girl, and when she was fitted and did the fueling, she's just been firing up first or second pull. Stay safe, guys. That's some of the amazing equipment available from the 1950s to 1960. Bye for now.